artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, and to be specific, almost 70 years. And every time there's a hype, there is always disappointments, and the expectations have always exceeded the actual results. But this is the first time, this is the fourth resurgence of artificial intelligence with generative AI. And this time around, the promise of AI is starting to match the technology. And, uh, and that's what's really exciting. Even 10 years ago, when I was doing the deep learning based startup, the gap between the vision of artificial general intelligence and the reality was significant. And now uh, you can at least see that there's a line of sight that we can have very smart, maybe not AGI, but very smart systems. There is a line of sight to that, and that's exciting and scary, right? At the same time, I always try to look at the bright side of things and really excited about the potential and the impact it can have, the economic impact and the social impact it can have. That actually, when I spent about 10 years in AI over the last decade, that also drove me to study the ethics of AI. So I actually took a break for 1 year and studied policy making for ethical AI and sustainability, and came out of that program with a lot of conviction that we have to be proactive in shaping the foundation of it. With social media, the governments and the governing bodies left that uh, uh, deliberately unregulated, and we can see the impact of that. It has a lot of positives, the technology, but also a lot of the negatives. With artificial intelligence, the impact is way more bigger, so we have to be a lot more careful, and that's why we are leading. Nemetschek is leading with this ethical and human-centric artificial intelligence, something that we really advocate and promote, which includes things like making sure we are transparent about our policies, the type of data we are using, using it fairly, and there are a lot of other things that go with it. But I'm a big advocate that we have to, as an industry of technologists and construction, have to come together along with the government agencies and industry experts to make sure that we do this in a responsible way.
I really appreciate the approach. I think we have a very similar approach. I think yours is far more educated than mine is. So I'm at the tip of learning this one, but I'm very familiar with, the social media disaster, I will call it. I mean, yes, it had a lot of positive impacts and it's done some very unique things for us, but it's also left us with, statistically proven higher anxiety levels. 2015, a lot of things changed in the psychological world across the world in general.
Right.
So, and we can tie it back to not leaning in and playing a role in shaping how it comes. So what might be some real world examples of where AI, if we don't be ethical and have a human centric approach, where could it go off the rails? How could this become the worst case? And then I want to bring it back to the best.
Couple of things that come to mind. One is the data privacy and the transparency of the data used. Going back to your example of social media regulation gave all the technology providers that immunity. So they were like, I have nothing to do with any outcome. I have no liability. And if we do something like that with AI, the it can really impact in a couple of things. One is uh, architects and contractors and others have IP that they have put into their designs, into their workflows and their projects. And if software vendors can take that information from different sources and start building algorithms based on that, they can be taking away some of the IP that has been built over the last decades and centuries, right? And can erode the competitive advantage that you have. There's also the privacy piece of it. There's an element of whose data is being used, and that's why I encourage my customers to work with vendors that are signing up for that trustworthy and ethical AI, and also reading between the lines of what their policy towards AI and data is. So that's one example. The second is just like in autonomous cars, right? The biggest challenge is if a car makes a decision, who is responsible for it and what was the reason for making that decision? And similarly, as we move towards more autonomy and automation on the construction and job sites, there will be a time where a lot of the actions will be automated. And if an accident happens, God forbid, then what was the reason that the machine took a certain decision? If and who is eventually liable? Is it the end user who was operating the machine? Is it the algorithm? It was the software provider, hardware provider, insurance company, or the construction site? Who is responsible for that type of decision, and the transparency in how that decision was made? If those things are, if the vendors and software providers are not open to sharing that kind of information, it can lead to a lot of anxiety, but also lawsuits and things like that. So again, I think these problems, the legal system will solve some of these in other industries, such as autonomous cars and other places. But those are a couple of examples that come to mind where um, if you don't have a good ethical framework, then it can create more problems than advantages.